Hello and welcome to Podtoid. I'm CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
I'm Charlotte.
I'm Occams.
And this is episode 453. Thank you for joining us today. The whole gang is here. Welcome back, Chris and Dan.
Thank you. It feels like it was months ago that I last did this show.
Yep, that's 2020 where everything feels like it was longer ago than it was.
Yeah.
Could you remember 5 years ago when we covered the PlayStation 5 announcement? Man, God, that was so long ago. What? That was 8 weeks ago. Never mind.
What is time? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more.
Yeah, we're living time in dog years right now.
Remember when I said like E3 being padded out over the summer with everyone doing their own thing would be probably a better thing? No, it's not. Let's go back to E3 where it's a week and they got an hour to go on stage and then they got to get off stage.
Agreed.
You know, Charlotte, about that reference, there's something about what is love that really confuses me because it sounds like a question, but if you actually look at the song, there's no question mark. So it's more like a statement, like what is love? Just point that out there.
On today's show, we got some good stuff planned for you. We're going to be looking at Grounded, which seemingly has gone from a game that everyone was kind of dunking on to something that everyone seems to love. I'm seeing it all over fucking Twitter. We're also going to be talking about Atelier Ryza, which is a game I stupidly called Atelier Ryza for many, many months until Google taught me how to pronounce that word.
CJ, you idiot.
Hey, if I called Sergey Serge last week on 2 different occasions, clearly I'm not the brightest bulb in the chandelier.
Getting those 2 letters the wrong way round in that strange sounding video game title.
And then a little bit later in the show, we're going to be answering some of your listener questions. Before we get into that, Dan, as the host who has been gone the longest, how you doing?
Oh, I'm fucking awful.
Yeah.
I've been depressed. I've been coughing and sneezing my brains out. I've been having a blast, but now I'm back on Podtoid. So hopefully things are on the up and up.
So we finally got one of us who got COVID. I can't believe it. It's been so long.
Maybe.
I honestly thought it was going to be me first.
But I have a mini fridge in my room and like a little tiny like conventional oven. And this is where I've been staying now for over a week.
Just not leaving your room?
Yeah, I live with my dad, so I mean, I don't want to get him sick, so.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of ramen?
Yeah, like unironically, like just a whole box of it.
Should pull an old boy, start eating dumplings, and punch the wall.
I'm getting there.
I love that you've got a little oven. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the circumstances could be better, but I'd like a little oven in my bedroom. Cook some food. Put my hand on it, like when I'm angry.
But I'm like imagining it's an easy bake oven.
I like that idea a lot, actually.
Dan cooking himself up a cake with a light bulb for
my good old chemical cake made with this light bulb oven.
What happened to toys that were hideously dangerous? Like, Well, when I was a kid, we all had bears that had giant 6-inch spikes sticking out of them, and I don't remember anybody complaining.
For all our 50-plus-year-old listeners, that's one of my favorite sketches from early SNL was the Candace Bergen and Dan Aykroyd, and he was like the shady toy company owner. There's little Johnny Switchblade and little bag of glass.
Oh, who didn't want a big bag of glass that Christmas? I mean, come on.
I think I always remember there was a little thing that let you make your own monsters, and you were supposed to like kind of you got the goo and then you put them on like a hot plate. That plate was like 1,000 degrees. Do you know what I mean?
Creepy crawlers, I think.
That's it. Yeah. It was just like marketed to like 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like Bunsen burner level fucking plates.
Yeah.
And then they made a cartoon of it that no one remembers.
Yeah, I don't remember the cartoon.
Do you know what kids are missing out on these days? Lead paint on toys. Bring back lead paint.
Let's start that campaign. And also just like metal toys. This was a bit before our times, I believe, but in the 70s, maybe early 80s. But like every toy was made of metal. Like the old Tonka trucks, you could brain a child with a Tonka truck back in the day.
And from experience, yeah?
From experience. If you needed to.
Occams, did you ever have lawn darts growing up?
Yeah. I also used to have a cousin. Those two things are related.
Oh, man. I remember when I worked at the toy company, people kept asking us if we sold lawn darts. Like, these have been banned in the United States since the 80s. What do you think? We just have a black market for lawn darts here in the warehouse, or secretly selling them under overcoats or something like that? Come on, people. Just buy our regular crappy dangerous toys instead. Like, you say, I mean, you point out that old toys used to be made of metal. We had these. Have you seen those metal Marvel? What are they? They're not necessarily puzzles, but they're kind of like puzzles that you put together and they form like a pirate ship or a windmill or something like that. Have you seen any of those?
God, those will cut your hand off.
Exactly. Those things are just so fucking sharp. I can't imagine why anyone would want to bother with the tiny ass little pieces to put together this weird little metal Millennium Falcon or something. So, and yet, people did and then didn't sue us. So the only time we got people really, really mad at us is when we sold rubber band guns. Apparently that was the gravest offense ever at a toy store, to sell a rubber band gun.
Americans also got rid of fucking Kinder Surprise eggs, which blows my mind. Because we still have those in Canada, and I fucking loved those things as a kid.
Those are back now. Okay. I heard tale that they were gone as well, but no, I saw some at Target of all places a couple days ago.
What do you think they did to get unbanned? That's what I want to know.
Waited for a Republican administration that doesn't care about product safety.
Hell yeah.
That's all you have to do in this country. Just wait 4 years, and then you can sell whatever dangerous shit you want.
Hold on, CJ, real quick. Hold on. Let me. All right, that was me dropping the mic. That sounded like a plastic ass mic you just dropped. It was a pencil. God damn it! I can't drop this mic. It's a metaphor.
That when CJ watches movies, he's like, "Look at the wires."
Yeah, that's me. That's me, 100%. Before we get into the show today, I wanted to start us off real quick with a crap criminals entry. We haven't done one of these in a while. You've been hit by a crap criminal. And that's because there really hasn't been any funny criminals over the past few months. Can't quite put my finger on the reason why, but I think I have a good one for this week. So we're going to start this story in Papua New Guinea. We're some drug dealers. We're looking to make the score to end all scores. They're using COVID-19 quarantines as a cover because they figure nobody would be watching the sky. The drug dealers were attempting to smuggle $80 million worth of cocaine from Papua New Guinea all the way to Australia. $80 million, or what's known on the black market as a week of Charlie Sheen. So the plan was to load up all the coke onto a small twin-engine plane and fly it to Australia. The only problem is $80 million worth of cocaine weighs a lot. Like, a lot. In fact, it weighed over 500 kilograms for our European audience out there. And for our American audience, that's 1,102 pounds. They basically loaded a live horse onto this plane. Needless to say, it didn't make it that far after takeoff when it crashed. No one was injured. No one was killed. And the pilot managed to get away from Papua New Guinea all the way to Australia, where he was arrested immediately upon arriving, along with 5 members of apparently a cartel that he also inadvertently brought down because he can't do math, and then a few other people associated with the drug deal. Imagine having $80 million worth of cocaine and cheaping out on not doing 2 flights.
It's just like, do your research and see what your plane can carry. And like, if you're in the realm of like transporting $80 million in cocaine, I feel like you can get a decent plane.
Yeah, something better than a little twin engine Cessna.
Yeah.
And also, I have to preface this by saying I know this because of a book I'm reading at the moment. I am not a crack dealer, But if they were going to convert that into crack, they would get even more money for that. Like what they do is if they're transporting cocaine, they transport pure cocaine, not crack, and then they convert it into crack and they get even more money for it. So like that makes them even cheaper if they were going to do that.
Charlotte, you sound way too enthusiastic for not being a crack dealer.
Oh, Charlotte's been listening to her early 90s rap, I see.
No, it's a book by Tony Thompson. It's a really good book. I forget what the title is, but he's done a lot of books about Hells Angels and gangs in Britain. And they're all, I've read his Hells Angels book, and it's very interesting. Would recommend.
Like American Hells Angels, or are there Hells Angels International?
International. It's basically about a book about it's actually about outlaws, a different motorcycle club, but how they sort of joined forces with Outlaws International, and then it talks about their rivalry with the Hells Angels. It's a really good book. I think the book is actually called Outlaws. So book recommendation.
I remember because you hear all the stories growing up about the Hells Angels and how they're violent and how they're scary. And then I saw one buying Pampers in a Walmart and immediately just took away any frightening aspect about them.
You know, a good movie that portrayed bikers in a real positive light was Mask.
The Cher mask? Am I thinking of the wrong mask?
Yeah, no, with Rocky Dennis. Yeah.
I don't remember bikers in that.
Yeah, it was Cher's husband, or like her like old man.
Okay.
I think that was Chris Christopherson or Sam Elliott. It might have been Sam Elliott.
It sounds like a role either of them would have played in the 80s.
Hey, yeah. I wonder if anybody's written some gay porn about those two guys on a ranch. Hey guys, I gotta go.
Occam's got to get writing.
This is Podtoid.
All right, let's go ahead and get talking about games, and we're going to start with Dan, because you've been playing Grounded. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, I've been playing the game that's literally just bug snacks. I can confirm that you can, in fact, give snacks to bugs. Or in my case, I'd drop random rotten food from my inventory and then watch the ants come along and take it so that they would leave my shit alone. And, yeah, that's my major takeaways from this whole game, is that bugs are assholes, regardless if you are their size or if you are just normal sized. But, overall, though, this game is, like, such a huge, drastic, like, change for Obsidian. Like, Obsidian have always been the Western RPG dude. So, like, out of the blue, when they were just like, yeah, I don't know, we made a survival game where it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I was on board. And that's probably my major takeaway from this, is that the open world of Grounded really kind of captures a sense of wonder better than a lot of other open world games, and as cheesy as that sounds. Like, just examples of, like, finding a rake leaning against what I presume is a deck of the house or whatever, and then, like, going up the rake handle on my tiny little man body, and then standing above the giant open world that is the backyard and looking around is really neat. Or even just, like, finding a soda can and going inside the soda can and slurping up soda bubbles to rehydrate, and then running into a wolf spider and then getting trapped inside the fucking can because you can't leave has been an experience.
So how has it been dealing with the spiders? Because
spiders are the fucking worst. This game did nothing but reinforce my hatred of spiders. They pretty much, like, one hit you in this game as well. Like, they are fucking tough, man. Spiders are, and they're everywhere too. Like, they're everywhere. I can't get away from the spiders. The wolf spiders and the orb weavers or whatever. They're all over the place, and they're creepy as fuck. The wolf spiders, for example, you'll see off in the distance. You'll see, like, giant blades of grass in the distance kind of, like, moving and spreading apart. And you'll know you're in for some shit then when you see a fucking giant spider leg moving towards you. And, yeah, they're extremely tough. Like, this game, like, another takeaway is that it's hard as fuck. Spiders will just straight up one-hit you. So you either have to do, like, a perfect guard or, like, just kind of, like, juke around them and hit them and keep moving in a big circle to kind of take them out. And it's a pain in the ass, because they're everywhere, and they can destroy your base in, like, a minute, so.
Have you come across a baby ant that you've named Auntie yet?
No, I haven't come across any, like, baby larvae ants or anything like that, but I haven't come across spiderlings, which I immediately kill on sight for their web. And the ants themselves, the ants aren't hostile. They'll leave you alone, the worker ants. There are soldier ants. that will attack you if you're like near an anthill. But other than that, the ants are pretty calm and normal. Like they're the one bug that seemingly won't attack you other than ladybugs. Until I ran into a fucking cordyceps ant, which is, as a concept, is terrifying in this game, that there are cordyceps bugs and that they could potentially spread. Like, in the future, when this game gets more updated, I really hope they include the option to be infected by a cordyceps, to which then you have to then infect your friends if you're in a multiplayer session. That'd be rad. But you can defend yourself. You can craft armor, either from ant parts or ladybug parts if you're an asshole, or acorn shells, which is what I've been doing. I've been going around gathering up giant-ass acorns, taking their shells, making it into armor. But even with armor, like, spiders seemingly just, like, can two-shot you instead of one-shot you. They're tough, and they're everywhere. That's probably the one complaint I maybe have, and I don't even know if it's a complaint, is that the game is hard.
Why are you small? Why are you small in the game?
There is a story, and the story itself is very short. Like, right now, the game is in early access, or Xbox preview, or what have you, on Xbox Game Pass. But the gist is, without really going into spoiler details, it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Your dad's a scientist. Oh, whoops, okay. You got shrunk.
Isn't it also set in the early 1990s as well? Like I heard that. So it's literally.
Like, it definitely has. It's like these teenagers you play are certainly out of that era. A lot of dialogue and stuff that they throw around.
So it's like the license isn't there, but that just straight up is what the game is. You're going to end up in a bowl of Cheerios at some point.
I hope so. Right now, the story content is really short. Like, I don't know if I'd recommend dropping $40 on this. If you have Xbox Game Pass, or like Game Pass in general for PC as well, definitely play it on there. But dropping $40 on this is maybe a bit much at the moment, because if you just do the story stuff, instead of exploring around and you just focus on story beats, you'd probably beat this in like an hour and a half. So not a whole lot there in terms of content at the moment. Like right now, as soon as I finished the story stuff, I've just been focused on exploring. So,
you know, to this day, I still fantasize about that oatmeal cream pie that was the size of a car.
I remember when this was announced, and there were a lot of people like just dunking on it, making fun of it, talking about how childish it is. But isn't this like just the most brilliant idea? I mean, who doesn't love fucking Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
And as
you
a
could actually now
game,
go make the game.
That's a perfect concept for a survival game. And I think there's like a ton of potential. Like, out of all the survival games I've played, from stuff like, you know, Rust and Ark and The Forest, I think Grounded has the potential to be like my absolute favorite.
I definitely think it has the potential to be like the next big YouTube game that everyone's gonna fucking be playing. You know, step aside Hello Neighbor, here's Grounded.
Hell yeah. But like the open world capturing like a sense of wonder is something that I really emphasize. Like, even just going into like a bush, for example, like you can go to the garden near the house, and like in the concept of how tiny you are, the bush looks like some fucking forest realm or something. And even taking like arrows or bow and arrows that you made from like twigs and stuff, or like thistles or whatever, you can then shoot the blueberries and they fall down, and there's something like seeing a giant ass blueberry land in front of you and then harvesting that. It's neat. Like, it captures a real neat sense of wonder that I don't think a lot of survival games even get close to. Just like if you play something like The Lone Dark, which is just freezing to death and dealing with wolves, I don't know. I've been in there and done that in a lot of games outside of the survival game realm. But this, I mean, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the game as a concept of its own, is great. So,
Chris, do you have anything this week?
No, I haven't. I've still got to play through the Rambo game and come back to you guys about that. I did finish these films. I've been watching the films, which is what kind of inspired me to play the game. And I watched Rambo: Last Blood last night. Yeah, that's a racist fucking movie. That's a racist fucking movie. And you know, I like Stallone, and I think that Rambo series is kind of up and down. I think the Rocky films are far better. Yeah. But Last Blood's definitely the weakest of the Rambo films, and like unashamedly like pandering to a certain type of voter in numerous ways. Like kind of shocking how almost a fucking campaign trail that movie is. But whatever. But I'm going to play the game and then I'll get back to you all on it.
Chris, was it Rambo 3 that had him in the tank versus the Russian guy in the helicopter?
You're playing chicken, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite like Cold War propaganda film moments ever. That's just so good.
Rambo 3 is like the real blockbuster one of the series that really kind of made him a name and got everyone doing like the bad impressions. And it's also like off the back of that film that they started doing things like marketing the toys to the kids and they got made like a Rambo cartoon series as well.
I remember that.
And you could buy that, like you could buy like a plastic replica of his Rambo 3 knife and just like,
dude,
it's like,
I had that.
I bet you did.
Yeah, of course I did.
I think a lot of, but it was really strange because obviously I'm not going to bang on about this. I think I might have brought this up before, but First Blood is literally a film about a Vietnam veteran who has a psychotic episode after he comes up against some violent police officers and has a complete kind of mental breakdown and goes nuts. And then by Rambo 3, it's straight up just like, he's the hero, here's your cartoon show, here's your tie-in kids' toys. It's that character goes on a fucking trajectory.
Yeah, see, my first Rambo movie was Rambo 3. And I saw that as a child and just ate it up, and the knife and all that fun shit. And then a couple years later, I saw the first Rambo. Yeah, boy. That was a bit of a different experience.
I imagine it's a more severe U-turn or whatever the term is that I can't think of right now, than, say, starting with Fast and Furious 7 and then going back to the first Fast and the Furious, where they're stealing DVD players.
I don't think there's any submarines in the first Fast and Furious.
I love the trajectory those movies have gone on. Like they are just at some point they're all gonna have like the ability to shoot fireballs. It's just gonna happen.
Just they're the last movie just gonna be Mario Kart. Just like shells and banana peels and
the last movie is They Are the Cars.
In turbo.
Shit.
Right. So yeah, I'll play through the Rambo game hopefully this week, and then I'll get back to you with how fantastic it is.
Yes, I anticipate it's going to be the most fantastic thing you will play all year.
Mate, £1 including shipping.
Let's go ahead and move on to me real quick. I've had a kind of a busy week just gearing up for the TennoCon that was yesterday or on Saturday. So I played a lot of Warframe this week. I've been binging a lot of Schitt's Creek, which is temporarily my new favorite show until I finish it. But I've also been playing Atelier Ryza. And one thing people constantly harp on Nintendo about is it doesn't drop the price of its games forever. They'll be $59.99 until the console goes out and they don't sell it anymore. And for those people who like to complain about that, I'd like to introduce you to the Atelier series because this thing does not drop in price at all. There are games that are 2-3 years old that are still $60 in this franchise for the Switch. It's like a series I've been wanting to get into for a while, but I've never been able to convince myself to pay the full $50 or $60 to play it. Only reason I got into it now is because they put Atelier Ryza on sale when they announced Ryza 2, and it was like $35, and I thought, okay, I'll take the dive in because everyone says nice, charming things about it. And I'm only about two hours into the game because of everything I've been doing this week, and it's very pleasant. It is a very pleasant game. It's beautiful. It's the world they built is lovely. And surprisingly, the Switch version runs very, very well, just with some minor long load screen issues. The one problem I've had with the opening of the game is that when I play in the evenings, it's like 103 degrees in my apartment. I have fans blowing hot air on me, and in those situations, I either have to be fully engaged with something, or I just have to veg out. And so if I'm playing a game that has just like a slow ass opening, it just kills me. I'm like falling asleep on my couch, just trying to get through the opening of this game. And it's not a knock against it. It's just a unfortunate set of circumstances that I'm playing this game in the most miserable heat that there is. I'm going to have to start using my air conditioner, I think. And then couple it with that, it's just a slow opening with a lot of dialogue scenes and not too much action. But one thing that I do really, really like about it is the battle system, because it's a turn-based system that's a lot more action-oriented. You have members of your party, but you only control yourself, and basically it's like an active time battle system, like we've had in Final Fantasy games for years. But if you don't act fast enough, your turn, people can cut in line for your turn. So if you're battling an enemy and you don't choose your attack fast enough, and their ATB gauge fills up, or however it works in this, they can jump ahead of you and attack. So I like the fact that it is so fast paced, and it really does feel kind of action oriented. I'm surprised that a series that releases a new game nearly every year since 1997 managed to figure out a battle system this engaging. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I'm very much fallen for it after about 3 or 4 missions with it. And when I say that Atelier releases a game nearly every year, that is not a lie. I think the only years they didn't release games was 1999, 2000, and then 2018. And they made up for the missing one in 2018 by releasing 2 games last year, 6 months apart. That is getting into Guitar Hero levels of releases right there.
About a couple of years ago, I played Rorona, which is a PS3 era Atelier, and it's really nice just to. I think I played about 20 hours of it, and then I hit a difficulty spike. But it's really nice just to put a podcast on and just chill out with it. It's I definitely recommend it too.
Oh, absolutely. Because I don't usually listen to podcasts, but Occams continuously tries to keep getting me into them. And so I started doing podcast gaming with Tetris 99 about 2 weeks ago, listening to 372 Pages We'll Never Get Back, which is the podcast that goes over bad books. And I think this is going to be, as soon as I get out of this opening section where there's just a lot of cutscenes setting up everything, it definitely seems like something that's going to become a podcast game for me. So yeah, it's interesting. I hope to have it done by the end of August, but I'm going to start up playing the duo of Last of Us games starting next week because I have restarted my GameFly account. So it'll be quite a left turn from going from fun little alchemy game to blowing off the heads of fungi enemies. So,
well, I'm sure you'll come across less ARM-based controversy anyway.
These goddamn nerds.
That should just be a Podtoid segment.
These goddamn nerds.
These goddamn nerds. Endless amounts of content to work with there.
I think that'd make me even more depressed than I already am. So let's go ahead and wrap this up with Occams. Occams, you watched The Thing?
I watched The Thing.
Yeah. The Thing. Oh,
yeah. So Wilford Brimley died, and that bums me out. I liked Wilford Brimley. He was just a cantankerous, happy, fun time old man. And so The Thing is my favorite horror movie. John Carpenter's The Thing. Favorite horror movie, hands down. It's to me, it's one of, if not the greatest horror film ever made. And it's required viewing, I think, for everybody. Even if you don't like horror movies, I think it works on so many levels. The setting, the music, John Carpenter did a fantastic job with the soundtrack. The practical effects hold up today. What is it, almost 40 years later, give or take? I'm sure, Chris, you probably know the date better than I do. But it's just a fantastic movie, and you don't really need a reason to watch it. But I thought now, with the passing of Wilford Brimley, it's a really good time to remind everyone, hey, go watch The Thing. It's a great fucking movie, and it's worth the watch, worth your time. They don't make them like that anymore, unfortunately.
It's from '82, and it's probably worth me pointing that out because there's obviously a remake. So
you want the remake.
Yeah, no, it's
a prequel.
It doesn't matter.
You're right, but it is just called The Thing, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. It's 2011 The Thing, and it's a prequel. It's about the Norwegian folks. How they got fucked up.
The kind of the original kind of squad, but it even has a really, really similar cover as well, so it's super easy to grab the one wrong. But yeah, I'm not gonna add. There's nothing that needs to be kind of said. Possibly John Carpenter's best film, one of the best horror movies of all time. Holds up amazingly today. The paranoia in it's fantastic. It has an absolutely kind of killer ending. And a great score. A little bit gooey, but if you've been playing Carrion lately, go and watch the thing.
Yeah, if you've been playing Carrion, you've been playing the thing. Even though there was an actual thing game, which
there was,
had some good, it had some good
good
moments. Yeah, it had some good ideas, but
it's not the dream thing game. The problem is you were playing the Survivors. Like, you should be able to play the thing. Make that a game.
I think it's called Carrion.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's the movie everyone should watch right now. And if you haven't seen that prequel, it's not a good movie, but they had some really interesting ideas for some of the visual effects. And there's a really fun thing on YouTube which shows what they're like the pilots of the alien spaceship. That version of the thing they made was practical effects, gorgeous, really, really cool. And they scrapped it because they wanted some dumb fucking CG crap. Oh, it was awful.
They wanted CGI. The studio meddling in that film was a thing. They didn't even want to call the movie The Thing. They wanted to give it its own like subtitle name because it's a fucking prequel, and the studio refused. So they ended up on The Thing, which is just confusing. And yeah, they ditched all the practical effects that they spent like a year on in favor of CGI, which had to be rushed too. So
yeah, so all those scenes are on YouTube if you want to check those out, but you don't need to watch the movie.
Apparently, a remake of the 1982 The Thing was announced this year. So
joy.
There is a remake coming.
Nah.
And of course, like just to keep coming in with the trivia, The Thing itself is a remake as well, which is it just adds to the part. Yeah.
You are listening to Podtoid.
It is the first show of the month, and that means it is time for us to open the goddamn mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail. So we got a few questions for this show. I was hoping to get a little bit more, but, maybe everyone's busy with TennoCon. We're going to start with Boxman214. Speaking of Carry On, which we were just talking about, with that game being a massive success, surely other game makers will take inspiration from it. What other non-human creatures would you like to play as in a game? And Occams, your sick mind seems to be perfectly made for this question. So let's start with you.
Well, like this, the last sentence threw me off because what other non-human creatures would you play? So I was thinking like, well, Godzilla, but they've made Godzilla games. But have there been really good Godzilla games? Maybe no. King of the Monsters, but that's not really Godzilla. Kaiju. I like games where you get to play it. Like, what was that Wii game where you got to play as a spider and a scorpion?
Creatures.
Yeah. See, shit like that. But if we're doing monsters, like Critters, Gremlins, that would be a good one. Gremlins 2, Spider Gremlin. I love the Spider Gremlin. I have the Spider Gremlin sitting on my shelf right now.
NECA?
Oh, yeah. Best in the biz, man. Best in the biz. My answer before Carrion would come out would have been The Thing. It had been The Thing for 100 years. But now that game sort of exists, I would love to see, maybe extrapolate out, make a Thing game. But like in the kind of the realm of prototype with more of a 3D world, but give it the Rockstar treatment. Like really just dump some serious cash, some serious resources into it and make it really pretty and just really unpleasant. I would love to see it'd be really to like, so you're the Thing and you want to infect somebody, but it'd be really cool to do like a mini game where you go on the cellular level to take them over. Yeah. It'd be kind of a fun kind of body horror thing. So other than that, man, any game where I can play as a sea monster, I am a really happy creature. I'm a happy camper. I loved Maneater. So and give me a game where I play as a giant squid. There was Peter Benchley wrote another book that wasn't as famous as Jaws called The Beast, which was about a giant squid. It was he found his niche big time. And I would love to play a game like that.
Charlotte, you have an answer for this?
So can I just repeat this was non-human. It wasn't necessarily a monster.
Right, non-human.
Okay, baby harp seal. I just like roll around, sneeze occasionally, eat krill.
Right. Hey,
See a
Charlotte,
killer whale.
I don't appreciate in 3 words you ruining my answer, because that is the best answer.
I got that idea from there's a YouTube channel. I forget what it's called, but he goes through like all these different D&D scenarios that he's gone through, and in one of them, like, there were these baby harp seals, and there was like a kingdom of baby harp seals, and one of the chaotic evil characters like bamboozled these baby harp seals to trick him to get out of prison. And it was just like, you just really felt for these baby harp seals because they just wanted to be good and nice, and they were too innocent. But yeah, I want baby harp seals and everything now.
That is 100% not the direction that Boxman was going, but god damn if that isn't a great answer.
That's wonderful.
Chris, what about you?
You know, this has been kind of a cyclical episode, but like I'd honestly, because I'd already got my answer down, I was going with spiders. Like I think they're great, and I think playing as them is great, and I think Deadly Creatures, which you mentioned, Occams, like kind of had an idea, but obviously it didn't really get to kind of explore upon that. But I think they're just really kind of flexible, and they've got a cool fighting style. That's such a weird thing to say. But like, and you know, they can fucking go upside down. They can squeeze through gaps. I think you can really make an interesting game like out of being a spider. There's a couple of indie games on the horizon that are actually going down that route that are all kind of physics based on web making and stuff like that. I'm kind of in, you know, and it's really funny. We talked about Grounded earlier, so at the moment spiders are kind of like taboo in like the gaming industry. But yeah, like I'm still waiting for like the ultimate "you are a spider" game. Like we need that Grounded DLC where you just play as the spider. I don't know. You've already got the models there, so.
Well, if people are too uncomfortable with the spiders, they can just play as this unrecognizable white goo with 2 blood red eyes.
You know,
apparently that's better.
I watched the video of that, and I thought it was equally as unsettling. Because they still like kind of roar, and they just kind of float, and they still move towards you at high speed, and they're kind of just, you know, like floating in midair. And I appreciate that they haven't got the legs, which is kind of the most important part. But I still think when one of those comes barreling out the grass at you, it's pretty scary, to be honest. Maybe they should make like an asymmetrical mode where like some players are like the humans and one player's the spider.
So like, what is it? Death by Daylight or?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Dan, what's your answer?
Katamari Damacy, but you're actually the Blob. Like the Blob, the movie, the game, with like a Rockstar quality budget or something. I know like Carry On is kind of that. I know there's like another 2D kind of thing that's similar to that, but I want to like be the Blob. I want to like trap an idiot in a phone thing or whatever, a phone booth, and then break the glass and get him. I want to hide on a ceiling and then fall on him and watch his face get melted by my blobness. I want to grow big. I want to take buses. I want to kill children, just like the Blob once did in the remake there. I want to be the Blob. I think the Blob as a movie concept is great, but as a video game, it's fucking brilliant.
The Blob to me was always like Chucky, in that it always seemed to be the easiest movie monsters to get rid of and get away from. I mean, it's just a blob. Just walk at a brisk pace and you'll be okay. It's Chucky. Just kick it.
Well, that's why you gotta be smart. As the Blob, you gotta hide and stuff. You gotta trap them and stuff. There's tons of fun ideas you can do with that as a video game.
What you do is you kick Chucky into the Blob. There you go.
There you go.
I mean, like you could, like when your horror villain can be defeated by like locking him in a steamer trunk. That's not, you know.
Come on. You guys are ruining my game idea. Stop.
So my idea isn't technically non-human, but it's not exactly a full human either. For the past couple of days, I've been thinking about this idea of like an adventure platformer that's kind of like Chibi Robo. So you have this big open house, but it's based off the Addams Family, and you're playing as the Thing. And so you're just this hand that's going around the Addams Family mansion, climbing up walls, skateboarding, because he did that in the movies. Some death-defying platforming. I'd be up for that. That to me sounds like the best use of the Addams Family IP.
Other than that pinball game.
Other than the pinball game. Oh yeah. Next question. Agent 9 wants to know, if we had to quarantine in a video game world, which world would you choose and why?
I actually thought about this long and hard, but I know I want a game that, like, I can become incredibly powerful with, like, the least amount of resistance and, like, of doing anything. And the game for that is Skyrim. Skyrim is a game where you can, like, get 100 smithing by just making iron daggers all day. Or just, you can learn a bunch of magical spells by just reading books. All I would need to do is find a book that can teach me transmute, or whatever, however it's pronounced, which can turn iron ore into silver ore, and then silver ore into gold ore. So I did then just go mine shit, make a bunch of gold, sell it, buy a house, and I'm pretty comfy. The only thing I'd have to worry about in the realm of Skyrim is some fucking Bethesda bug disfiguring me horribly.
just your jaw comes off and starts rotating around your head.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of that RPG trait of, like, you pick up a book and then it's like you pick it up in the middle of a warehouse in Fallout or whatever, and then you just, like, you click on the book and it's just like, you're better at bartering now or whatever.
Hell yeah.
Just sat down and read it in the corner of the room, like 300 pages, don't worry about it.
Charlotte, let's go with you next.
Probably, to be honest, Cooking Mama, because I just spend all day cooking. And that's my hobby, so that'd be great.
That's great.
Oh, that's another great answer from Charlotte. God, I didn't even think of that. I went with what I thought was kind of the easiest answer for this, and that if I'm going to be in quarantine, which means I'm going to be stuck at home, I'd like to have the nicest home I could possibly get, so I'd want to be stuck in The Sims 4. Seriously, just Google the term The Sims Mansion, and there are some amazing houses that people have built. So that would be the best idea for me. I saw one with a pool, a basketball court, 3 stories. Hell yeah, let me quarantine in that instead of this goddamn apartment.
You know, like, I feel really bad when people bring up The Sims, and because most people have this story in the past with maybe The Sims 2, where they spent all their time, like, being architects in The Sims 2, whereas I used to just try and build really disgustingly complex family trees, and all the women would have 10 babies and half of them would get taken away by social services. So I don't know what that says about me.
Occams, what's your answer?
Earthbound.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the Earthbound world. Just living, being strange in a strange world sounds great to me. Good music too.
It's not bad. Chris, let's wrap up with you.
I've got kind of the most practical, but the probably the most boring answer. Theme Hospital. Like, if there's like a global pandemic and we're all being quarantined, yeah, I'll take the hospital, thanks.
Are you sure you're thinking that all the way through?
Yeah, like there was like some sort of DOS game which was an actual hospital management simulator, but Theme Hospital, you'd end up getting a bicycle pump stuck up your ass.
Or a giant head or something. Yeah.
A light bulb for a head. Also, when everyone gets COVID, where do you think they're going?
Yeah, but I'll have, like, first pick of all the drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. And CJ, to be fair, the answer seems to be like every restaurant and bar in your town.
That's true.
Brighton Beach, yeah.
Yeah.
I want a break-off podcast from this one where it's just Charlotte and Chris answering these types of questions, because y'all's answers are fascinating.
Next question comes to us from Cult Rituals. They want to know, has the video game industry's catering to fans complaints permanently crossed the line?
I don't know what this means.
So when they originally wrote this question, they edited it. They were talking about the fan reaction to Halo Infinite or Halo Infinity. What is it? It's whatever it is. The next. Thank you. Halo Infinite, and the reaction to the graphics that, I made fun of last week. But people were saying that they look like Nintendo 64 graphics, which no one actually believes. That's just hyperbole on the internet. Enough complaints that it had the developers go to announce that they're going to be improving the graphics before launch. And so I think the question is trying to figure out is, do we think we're giving in too much to fans?
I kind of think, like anything, like with films or anything, it comes down to what people are asking for and the reasons they're asking for it. Like, I think this question is a really good question, and I definitely think there's truth in it, but it is a subjective subject. It depends on what people are asking to be changed or what people are demanding and why they're demanding it, and whether it's for their own personal benefit or whether it's because they're just, I want it my way or whatever. Like, I'm going to use one example here. Like, NetherRealm Studios is a great example of a studio that, like, sometimes listens to its fans when it shouldn't, but also ignores its fan base when it shouldn't. So, like, the Injustice and the Mortal Kombat communities are really demanding, wildly demanding. And in the past, NetherRealm has, like, both improved and broken its games. Like, maybe it's kowtowed to balance changes that didn't need to happen, or maybe it's ignored long-term problems like, you know, a loss of a Wi-Fi filter that's, like, really going to make the community stronger. So I kind of skip to the end. Like, I think ultimately, like any opinion, you should listen to everyone, but as a company, but you should choose who you agree with. I think a lot of companies have the ears, but they aren't always discerning enough when when to say yes and when to say no. All that said, I think at the end of the day, I like it when a studio commits to its vision. The same as with movies and TV, provided that its vision isn't like hurting anybody. But
right.
So I think the long and short, the too long didn't read of it is, I do think studios should listen to fans, but I also think fans can be their own worst enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a very, very subjective question based on what's being demanded and who it's being demanded of.
I totally agree. The only thing I have to add is I don't think this is a new thing by any stretch of the imagination. And like, there are probably examples before this, but I remember that Mass Effect 3 basically had its ending rewritten.
Right.
That was like coming up on 10 years ago now, like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So listening to fans a bit too much and deviating completely away from your vision to the extent that you rewrite the entire ending is something that's been around for a long, long time.
I will say in that particular case, they had to redo their ending because the developers of Mass Effect were writing checks they couldn't cash. Like they spent years telling you that your decisions are going to ultimately matter in the end, and then the initial ending to it proved that to be incorrect. Your decisions didn't matter too much. So that one for me definitely was more of a case of them scrambling to meet the promises that they had been making for the past 5 years.
But at the same time, CJ, you had fans who were like kind of exploiting charities in order to make their point.
Right. Okay. That is a good point.
And that's kind of what I mean about how the question's so subjective depending on what's being asked and how it's being asked of the company, and whether the company should have delivered something or whether it's kind of let everyone down. It's a good question, but it's such a case by case basis question.
Yeah. The one thing I wrote down here is that I don't think we've permanently crossed anything. Like, this isn't something that's just going to happen always, all the time from now on. And like you said, it's a case by case situation. And you said earlier that fans can sometimes be their worst enemies, or they may not know what they want. And the one example I always go back to in terms of video games of when kind of fan reaction ruins a product. Do any of you guys remember Spyborgs for the Wii?
No.
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 No. No.
No. No.
No.
No. No. No. Yes. I mean, no. No.
Okay. So Spyborgs was originally announced at a Capcom event, and it was kind of modeled to be like a Saturday morning cartoon. And so you had these 5 playable characters. There was an action adventure, and I think it had some shooting elements. And it also had commercials that parodied toy commercials aimed at kids that were mini games. So it was this really kind of unique idea that the internet just went fucking nuts over how much they hated it, because, you know, this was the late 2000s, and, you know, anything that remotely looked like it was aimed at children was immediately a no-go for most people on the internet. And so Capcom went through and completely changed the game. They got rid of the Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic. They changed the graphics. They got rid of 2 of the playable characters. They made it a brawler, and they sucked all of the life out of this product. And it was just this weird husk of a game that they put onto store shelves, and it like quickly failed. And so, like, there are times when listening to fan feedback is something that should be done. Sonic the Hedgehog movie, 100% an example of that. But there are examples of when that can ruin the final product. Spyborgs. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. You know, examples like that.
We're also talking about like times when people want things changed for moral reasons, and people can get, and that's often that's often, you know, that's shaky ground as well. But more often than not, the fans can be right in those situations. I think this is a really valid question, and it kind of warrants almost like a huge conversation with kind of examples and research of this on its own. But of course, the weird irony for older video game fans is there was a time with video games and films, and obviously you, Occams, and CJ, and possibly Charlotte and Dan here, where it was like you got it, and if you wanted to complain, you complained to your mate down the street, and that was your only recourse. Like or you wrote a letter that nobody read. So it's a very different world, and it's actually a world where, you know, 25 years ago, you couldn't even ask this question because there wasn't the opportunity to do this. And that's kind of become a double-edged sword. I think sometimes the companies have kowtowed to pressure when it was right, and sometimes they have when it's wrong. It's always good to be able to have that feedback, but at the same sense, I think artists should sometimes like commit to their visions.
Sure,
exactly.
But to end on the note of like, have lines been crossed though in regards to Halo Infinite's graphics? No, not at all. Not even close. Not even like when Mass Effect 3 had its ending changed. Like, that is just, I don't think the line has been pushed to the point where like, oh man, Halo's graphics being changed is enough. People need to stop listening to feedback. I don't know. That's just a bit silly to me.
Especially when you consider that Halo Infinite is going to be allegedly, you know, we've heard this before, a 10-year game that, you know, they're just going to be continuously developing it. It's obviously going to get better. I think we found out that the video that they showed during the Xbox game reveal was a few months old. Like, it wasn't even a fresh look at what they're working on right now. So, to me, the Halo Infinite asking or demanding you improve the graphics is kind of just like the least serious example of fans getting irate over something, because there have been, I think, much bigger examples in the past. We've talked about them.
Like one thing I've just thought of is that the good thing about how things are now is that if you are of a minority opinion, or you are at some point in time maybe in the minority, then it's not as much of an echo chamber anymore. I mean, you can have echo chambers in social media, but back in the late 90s when Lara Croft was about, and all of the ads for Lara Croft were all about her tits, basically. And there would have been women who play games who were like, hang on a minute, I want to play as Lara Croft because she's badass, not because of her tits. But like, where were they going to complain to? And so now people can talk about stuff like that, and it is taken seriously, and that is a good thing. It's just sometimes when it causes a company to, I don't know, I feel like, again, this might be to do with the production upper management and having the courage of their convictions and knowing when to say no, because, you know, sometimes the management might be a little bit cowardly, and as soon as they get any sort of potentially negative feedback about a product that's in development, and they'll back off and do what the fans say, and then you end up with a car like a game that's like the Homer car in The Simpsons.
You know, you mentioned Lara Croft and how she was advertised back in those days. Holmes put up a quiz on the sexy Nintendo's past, and he had a lot of examples of how we used to advertise games back then. And fucking hell, it is awful. Just some of the fucking ads that you saw in magazines back there. Check out that article if you haven't already, just to see that, just to see where we've come. How far we've come on who it is we are catering to with our advertisements on gaming. Let's go ahead and do this last question. We got two candy bar questions. We're going to go with the one that Retrofraction asked us. They want to know, if we had to date a candy bar, which would it be?
I had Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, I guess.
Everyone loves it. Those are good. Yeah. Chris?
It's difficult. I guess it depends on the mood and the situation. I don't know if you guys have Galaxy there. Like, no. Galaxy's
I think it's
kind
called
of like,
Dove.
Is that what it is? Right.
Yeah, it's a Dove bar.
Okay, there you go. So I'm going to go with Galaxy or Dove, because to me that's kind of like it's kind of like the Charlie Theron of candy bars. Like, I think it's kind of rich and it's kind of smooth, and you'll be able to get into restaurants and bars if you're dating a Dove or Galaxy. But I make no bones about the fact that I'm well out of Dove's league. Like, I'm far out of Dove's league. So I think I'm gonna probably end up with like Reese's Nutrageous, because like that's a candy bar that will like play pinball with you, smash up the fucking pub, and then like when it's time to party, we'll get like pretty rough and ready. Do you know what I mean? So let's say Galaxy to take home to the parents, Reese's Nutrageous for the natural born killers vibe.
Charlotte, you got an answer for this?
Chris, do you remember Dream Bars?
Oh, barely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the same shape as a Dove bar or a Dairy Milk bar, but it's entirely white chocolate. I love white chocolate, so I definitely date a Dream Bar. If I had to go with something that's actually available at the moment in the UK, from what I remember is available, probably a mint Aero. So like the aerated chocolate, but with like a minty taste to it, because I like minty chocolate. But After Eight's a bit sickly, like because of the mint, how powerfully minty it is, and because it's dark chocolate. Maybe not After Eight. I'd more go for a mint Aero.
Charlotte, I'm sorry to inform you that due to your love of white chocolate, you have been canceled. Sorry, it's the rules.
God damn it.
Occams, you got an answer for this one?
I've listened to all of you talk, and it's sat my will to give an answer. Yeah, and it just went like when I read this question, it like went straight to sex. That was the first. I was like, which candy bar would I fuck? But probably a Snickers ice cream bar. I figure that's living a pretty good life. Snickers ice cream bar.
That's nice. That's good. Those are delicious. I will say, in this time of economic uncertainty, if I'm gonna be dating a candy bar, I want to make sure it's a candy bar that can support me and my lifestyle. That's why, even though it's not my favorite, I go with $100,000 bar because it has $100,000.
Right.
I'd settle for it. That makes logical sense to me.
And then you could eat it for the insurance.
Exactly.
That
money would be mine.
I really thought you were going to go with a whatchamacallit.
No, my other answer is that if we were in any other financial climate, I'd go with a Twix, because then I would be dating twins. Or, as they say in those old beer commercials, the twins! I think those were beer commercials. I can't remember.
Yeah.
This is a Budweiser commercial or something.
Anyways, this has been the goddamn mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
And we are just about out of time, but before we go, Occams, we have a shout out this week.
We do. I want to give a community shout out to member H Large 4. H Large 4. That's an interesting name. So I was scrolling through looking at stuff, and he posted, said he saved up for Ghost of Tsushima, which I can certainly understand. It's a fantastic game. But then his daughter came along and said, hey, can we get Animal Crossing instead? And she wanted to send him gifts and letters. And he chose to buy Animal Crossing to get gifts and letters from his kiddo rather than Ghost of Tsushima. And that's a beautiful, touching moment. And so shout out to you, H Large 4. You're a good dude.
That is it for this episode of Podtoid. On behalf of Charlotte, Chris, Occams, Dan, and myself, thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or to the Destructoid YouTube channel. And by the way, if you used to listen to us on Podbean and are wondering what the hell happened to our show, apparently something with the service changed and it was no longer accepting our RSS feed. So as of last week, we're now uploading the episodes individually. So they will be back.